This week's episode was an unexpected experience. I had Daniel Mengel and new friend of the podcast, Brian, into the studio to talk about an experience they had, a primal experience. And when I say primal, that was their takeaway. After their 2-day excursion and the experience that they had, their takeaway was that it was a primal experience. We need to have an open mind. That's the other thing I got out of this one. I had some interesting preconceptions going into this, and after, my perception has changed to the point where I would like to try and replicate the experience that they had, so I had my own input data. However, understand that sitting in the refinery, I sat them across from me and I looked in their eyes as they were sharing this experience, and it was real for them. The fear was real. The experience that they had was real. I saw it in their faces. We're talking this week about an interaction with a Yowie, which is Australia's version of a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Now, the stories of Yowies in Australia are long and illustrious. I'd heard stories of them in Arnhem Land, where there were some places you just didn't go at night. Not because there was foxes or crocodiles or any of that sort of stuff. It was basically, if you want to survive, you don't go here at night, because something lives there. Something primal, and something that we don't quite understand. It was an awesome episode. And when these unexpected ones come along, it's always makes me understand why I do this and why this story needed to be shared. So open your mind and sink into the experience that these boys had, and understand, like all things, there might be something greater out there. I finally started the Patreon page. It took a lot for me to do that. It was an interesting experience where I didn't ever finished it. I thought nothing was happening with it. I never checked it. I'd actually never finished it. However, it's up there now, and if you guys can swing some support my way, that'd be really awesome. I have 2 coders to talk about. I'd like to welcome to the fold David Nodes, who is a coder of the first degree, and Ben Hall, who is a second degree coder. Both of those boys are long-term listeners, and thank you very much for your support, gents. Look it up, Unlocking the Code on Patreon. I'm going to go with Bathe in the Sun for this one, and not too sure how we'll end. We'll see. That's about it for me this week, guys. Got some really awesome conversations coming up for you to hear, and some other awesome information coming out. Hope all is well. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. Stay focused. Be kind. Be cool. And we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Today I sat in a field of paper daisies. The gentle breeze made the world wave to me. The day has come with a gold ring wrapped around it. I think I might just bathe in the sun. And I hope my world don't crash in over me, just like it did yesterday. I'm pretty sure the last mirror that I cracked was more than 7 years ago. And I don't want to wear those bullet holes no more. I want to kill my nightmare. And I've done nothing wrong to anyone. Then I just want to be better, better than who I am, better than who I am, better than who I am, better than who I am. Moonlit river flows by gently, like a potion made from the earth. It is healing all of my inner bleeding, even though it's only pictures in my mind. And I hope my world don't crash in over
G'day everyone, welcome back. Got a bit of a different one tonight. It's my great pleasure to have Daniel Mangle back to the podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing really well, exceptionally well, Triffin. Thanks for having me back.
No worries, mate. And you've brought a friend of yours with you, Brian. How are you, mate?
Feeling good, and this is my first time on a podcast, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming to the refinery, and it's a pleasure to have you in. Now, you boys went on a bit of an adventure. This is where we're going to start. You boys went on a bit of an adventure a couple of weekends ago, and I think Brian's been searching for a lot longer than that. However, Yowies. Is that the term we're using, Yowies?
Yeah, we're Australian, so we use the Australian term Yowie of large, hairy hominids that are have been found all around the world for thousands of years. They're in texts, they're in documents all around the world. Even Leif Erikson, came across them when he first came to the Americas. And he wrote that they had a battle with the very large, hairy, stinky men, and they didn't want to face them anymore, so they left.
And that's that. I mean, we got also Australopithecus, haven't we? I mean, that's the evidence of a large
primate.
Upward walking primate was the Australopithecus, and they were about 9-10 foot tall. And that's that. When you talk about Yowies and you talk about where they come from and what they are, we would have in the timeline we did exist with them at some point or another. Even if I want to get to your experiences. However, we did exist with Australopithecus one time, and there would be a genetic memory or a DNA memory of these beings that exists inside us all. However, I know we'll get to Daniel, but I'm interested in you, Brian, because this isn't the first time you went out having a look for them. How long have you been wandering the big brown land searching for these types of things?
Well, actually, I suppose when I was in the police service, I was a forensic scientist, and up north I got speaking to a lot of the indigenous people there, and some more police officers, and then started listening to some of the stories, and I sort of got hooked. But I was really, I suppose you could say, initially hooked when I first saw the Patty Vision from 1967.
Yeah.
And when it was the old was it World Around Us with Leonard Nimoy doing the narration. It just captured me then, but really since then, and listening to some of the stories that I've heard, and then
what is a story that you heard up north that you could share with the listeners? Because I mean, I think these things are in the lore of the land. I'd be interested to hear a story from there.
Yeah, well, it was not. They don't tell you too much except to stay away from certain areas. It's much like down here, Lamington National Park. I have an Aboriginal sister, and the stuff that I got told from her relatives and that was there's certain areas of Lamington National Park they never went into.
I have heard that about Lamington National Park, yeah.
There's boundaries. And, of course, it's only, I suppose, in the last few years that we've all been all learning that these boundaries and that they put demarcation lines using tree branches, even to putting small little sticks in the tracks like at Strickland track, to denote things. What they mean, we still haven't worked out yet. But
is this the indigenous, you think, doing that, or is this the...
No, they believe that it is definitely the Yowies doing that. I mean, there was a recent one where they got some night footage of two Yowies. They came back later on and worked out how tall they were, and now between 8 to 9 foot tall. And you could see the image of them. They were back to back with each other. One was keeping an eye on the camp, and one was keeping an eye on the person that was filming them.
Okay.
Where the guy was standing doing the filming, the next morning they found these little sticks in that pushed into the track.
Oh, okay.
So I'm wondering, okay, is that something where they demark when they see little people, us?
And have you seen? You saw the footage of that?
Yes. Yeah. No, you could definitely see. I mean, I suppose in body thickness wise, I'm pretty thick set, but something 9 foot size, 9 foot tall, my thick set would be.
Yep. Be around what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So what do you think they are? I mean, look, and there's stories. I mean, as I said, I spent a lot of time in Arnhem Land. There was always stories about Yowies in Arnhem Land as well, and similar things. Like there is areas that you probably shouldn't go at night. That was basically the thing. Just don't go.
Yeah, if you want to still be around with your friends and family. Look, for me, I'm coming from a scientific side, and there's Dr. Melba. Over in America, she's done 2 genomes of the Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
And just a basic overkill of it is what she's found is that approximately between 10,000 and 15,000 years ago, there was a mix between an unknown hominid and Homo sapien. And that sort of has created what we now call Yowie or Sasquatch.
Okay.
Now, the difference being is that the mitochondrial DNA that gets passed down with us, it comes through the females.
Yes, that's correct.
But in this case, with the Yowies and the Sasquatch, it actually gets passed down through the male.
Okay.
In other words, so if a male Yowie takes a female Homo sapien and mates with them, they can reproduce another Sasquatch.
Okay.
But if one of us males has an interaction with a female Sasquatch, it won't produce the same.
Okay.
Because only the males carry the mitochondrial DNA to
produce this certain hominid.
Yep. So
and so you're saying that they actually have had some DNA evidence found in North America.
Yeah, no, there's a guy who's put $500,000 of his own money into the research. He doesn't get anything out of it. He hasn't sold anything. He's kept quiet about it. It's just for their own, I think,
curiosity.
Peace of mind and curiosity, into it, and they're trying to share it with people. But of course, the media, as usual, they mock things and don't, and of course, in the scientific community, and that if you talk about that, then you're committing yourself, hurry with your career.
Yes, that's
if you
true,
start talking about certain topics.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, we spent, prior to turning the mics on, I was showing you some of the megalithic research that I've been doing, and that's the same thing. You get the professionals in that field speaking too much about that, and as you say, hurry on their career. That's exactly what we're talking about. So
how they got the samples, I believe they've been going out and they've been collecting samples from different sightings and different people's experiences. But I think where they got the best samples is when there's on the internet you can see there's they've got an image of Matilda.
Okay.
And it's of a female Sasquatch, reddish brown color, and it shows her sleeping.
Okay.
Now the way they're able to get that is they put a piece of meat and they drugged it.
Right.
So they
baited it.
So they put it to sleep, and that was when they were able to go and get the samples. Now the full footage of that has never been released.
Okay.
I think the fellow, I can't remember the guy's name at the time. At the moment, it was Eric. I think it was his first name. Oh, Erickson. And they also filmed the only footage that's been put onto the internet so far is an image of her sleeping.
Okay.
And then one of her waking up where you see this thing that looks like Chewbacca.
Okay.
Basically sitting up and you can see it's dazed.
Yeah, right. Wow. Okay. See, I mean, I've never heard about it. The Sasquatch, the Yowie, the Bigfoot stuff. I mean, I was very fascinated when Daniel said that he was going to go out and go looking for them. And because it's one of those things that, you talk about the the Patterson footage is interesting because, there's evidence of the guy buying a suit and all this sort of stuff and potentially...
Yeah, that's pretty well easily debunked when you look at it. The film footage itself, the length of the limbs and all that sort of stuff, that we can't fit into something that... And also the way they walk, the way they lift, and they keep their knees sort of permanently bent, and the way they kick up, and also the bottom of their feet, it's totally different.
Okay.
I mean, once you start getting into your anatomy and physiology of it,
because you're a forensic scientist, so you're looking at this through a completely different lens than the guys going out drinking and trying to find a Sasquatch, basically. You know what I mean?
These things interest me, but before I will even, I want to, not so much I want to believe, but I want physical evidence.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I learnt through doing forensics.
For so many years, is that you need actual...
That's right. And what I found, especially with a lot of archaeologists, they would never make it through court. Because some of their ideas are absolutely up with the fairies.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
They're pathetic. They really are.
Most of modern archaeology and what we know is as the historical record, we've discussed it a lot in this room, Brian. It's built on pillars of sand, mate. It's on a bed of sand. It is so thin. I mean, you talk about hominids. We've discussed here that there is 24 hominids now that they reckon they've got evidence for, but they actually don't have a full skeleton of any of them.
No, well, they know there are at least 6 hominids living at the same time with us at the time.
Yeah, so the Pygmies, the Denisovans, the Neanderthals.
That's right.
The Homo sapiens sapiens and the, I can't remember the other one, but yeah.
Oh, you mean the Floriensis?
The Floriensis, yeah.
Which is basically what they call the Hobbit.
Yeah, the Hobbit, the
which
small
they there's been some other documentaries where they believe they still exist in some of the jungles of Indonesia. Yeah, where the locals talk about how they will come and they'll steal children
the Highland people of Papua New Guinea are a very small, stocky people. They're like, and I've much love for those people, and I've worked side by side and, sweat, blood and tears with those guys. However, they are very short and they're very stocky. They're like little mountain goats, but they wouldn't only... I've met PNG, older Highlander males that are not 5 foot tall.
No, but they're incredibly strong.
Unbelievably strong, yeah. Unbelievably strong. And this is is that an echo of the pygmy people? I mean, we've got... theoretically, you can do your DNA and find how much Neanderthal you've got in you, or Denisovan, or But I mean, how accurate is that? You talk about skeletons. I think Denisovans, we still don't have a full skeleton.
No, I think we've only got tiny fragments.
Yeah, like a jawbone and the top of a pinky or something like that.
All they know is that they are bigger than your biggest Russian wrestler.
Yeah,
and then they're just talking about the female. So
yeah, and I think.
Who knows? It could be what we have Sasquatch today. We have no idea, because of the ridicule that gets put into it.
That's the thing.
It does not get.
It's very.
Does not get studied properly.
No, and look, I must admit that I have. You see a lot of the Bigfoot stuff or the Sasquatch or the Yowie stuff, and there is a lot of stigma that's attached to it. And that's why I thought. When Daniel said you were a forensic scientist that was interested in it, and you're actually going out into these national parks there, where I have heard in the past there is some strange stuff out there. And look, I've been deep in the Aussie bush. I spent 10 years FIFO work, oil and gas and mining. I've been in the middle of nowhere in every single state in Australia, and there's definitely some odd places out there. However, I was interested because you are a forensic scientist to get your feedback and because you'd have a critical eye. You're going to look at this stuff entirely differently to a lot of other people. So what about a personal experience that you've had? Have you had any personal experiences or?
Well, so far with I suppose you could say close contact. When I first moved to Coralban.
Yeah. Which is beautiful country.
Yeah, it really is. The first night we were there, I thought I saw something that was very, very large and tall, very dark, and it was on the road. See, in Coralban, there's no street lighting all. So the whole place, when there's no moon, you can't see at all. anything you can see is a starlight.
What are the stars like out there?
Oh, much the same as it is out here, but there's no pollution, so you can see quite a bit of the Milky Way. But I saw what I saw, and I was like, "Am I seeing what I'm seeing?"
Yeah, there's always that when you see something that is unexpected.
You question yourself. And then the thing turned, and it ran downhill, and it was so fast. I just went, "Oh, okay." That was my first. I'm not sure. People talk about shadow creatures and things like that, but I don't think I've ever heard of them talking about things that are up to about 10 foot tall.
Yeah, right.
And it also freaked my dogs out as well.
Oh, so the dogs reacted to it.
Oh yeah,
they
ran in the house.
That's well, that's a tell, isn't it? If the animals, it's one thing, like you say, from a consciousness. Did I actually see that? But if the dogs reacted, then there was definitely something there.
Yeah. It was almost as if it was just looking to see who's new in the neighbourhood.
Yeah, right.
Now I've been walking with my dogs up over the top of the hill where I live, and there's a water tower, and you've got a bit of a steep slope that goes down there. And I was walking with the dogs. It got sort of really windy. Then it got really quiet. I couldn't hear anything else. Some of the breeze blowing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a message in my head, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, right.
Get your dogs, because the dogs wanted to go off. They especially my staffy, I've got an American cross English staffy.
Yeah.
And he wanted to,
Get out of there.
he wanted to go for something.
Yeah, right.
I had no idea what it was, but I got the feeling, no. If you want your dogs to live, get the hell out.
Yeah, right.
So I tend to follow my intuition.
Yeah, you follow your instincts.
I've learned over the years to do that, and so I got out. But apart from that, I've done my normal research, or I try to look at different examples on the internet. And that's when I found out about the genome project that they were doing.
Yeah.
And I actually got into that through Missing 411.
Okay.
David Pilates. He spoke about it, and he had a special sort of a program on it, where he spoke about it, and that's how I got on to see this footage of it. And of course, the media in America, they make fun of it.
Yeah.
Because they get told to, but I mean, we've been programmed for years to make fun of certain things and make fun of people.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great way of stopping people looking into certain things that are really important for us to know is to make it a point of ridicule.
Well, I mean, obviously, you'd be aware that we're awaiting the documents from the American government about the UAPs and the UFOs and stuff like that.
Yes.
And that's the same thing. We had a discussion here a few weeks ago about that, and it's like I've had a couple of experiences with Min lights, and I saw something zigzagging across the sky as a teenager. However, how many people have had experiences? Either I've been in the bush where I've gotten the fuck out of there as well. You know what I mean? Like it was like I should not be here. It's time to leave. That's happened to me a few times over the years.
It's like you get a message in your head.
Time to go.
To go. Don't stay here. Stay here longer.
Yeah. Something
bad's going to happen. Now get going.
Yeah, and I mean that's happened to me. But so how many people have had how many different experiences like that, whether it be with the Yowies or whether it be with, where do you want to get? The thing is that
you can't count how many. It's happening all the time. It's like number of babies being born every hour.
But I think it's increasing at the moment. There is more and more, maybe it's because we have the internet that we can actually find more information around the world.
Yeah.
Or is it the fact that everyone's got a little computer and a camera in their pocket?
Everyone's got a 20 megapixel camera.
That's right, and there's more recordings of things. Or is it the fact that things are starting, it's like the veil is starting to disintegrate, and we're starting to see more and more things that they talked about in the past with mythology and that.
Yeah, I also think too, Brian, it's an idea we've had in here for a while. It's like all the modern institutions that everything's been found to be full of shit, right? So that means more people are more open to different perspectives and different understandings. And I think that is leading the way a bit. And I think people are curious. You know, you talk about the megalithic stuff that we're into here, and the discoveries and the connections that are coming out of Australia. That would have been laughable 10 years ago. However, well, probably not 10 years, but 20 years ago,
still today
in
with
certain areas, absolutely right. It's still laughable, some of the ideas
it's
that we're
only
talking
by people
about.
who are ignorant anyway.
That's right. I think we need to have open minds and open perspectives. And, when, as I said, when Daniel said you guys are going out and seeing what you can see, it's not the first time, that I'd heard someone doing that. And it is same place. The guy that I was talking to is off Mount Tamborine, but it's the same bushland. The bottom of Mount Tamborine out to Bow Desert, Coralbin, it's the same.
It's the Great Dividing Range.
Yeah.
If you want to, I suppose, if you want to look at Yowies or come close to them, I think some reasons they stick to the mountains, mountain ranges.
Well, I mean,
places where we can't go.
And this is the hubris of the modern human too. Is that I think people seem to think that we've covered every part of this big brown land. There's no way that everybody has walked every metre of this land. Even our Indigenous brothers and sisters, they covered a fair bit of it, but even they wouldn't have seen absolutely everything. The cave systems, the mountain ranges.
The cave systems, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, is that where these guys are hiding during the day? Do you think they've got cave systems underground?
I definitely think there are some stories in that of even going back to the Civil War, where a fellow was picked up from the field. He was probably the last person left alive with all these dead people around him. He had a broken leg and that, and he was picked up, well, he remembers, by a very large man at the time. That was very smelly. Picked him up, threw him over his shoulder.
Right.
He passed out from the pain. And the next thing he remembers waking up is he was waking up in a dark place. But there was an actual fire going. So there was a little bit of light in the distance there. But what he noticed above him was all these tree roots.
Right.
And he goes on about how that he was fed and he was basically nursed back to health, and then
just make sure you get in front of the mic.
Yeah, he was taken.
Can you hear that? Yeah.
He was taken. And he was. I think he said that the place that he came out was from a side of a creek bed that came out that you wouldn't have seen.
Yeah, it's like a root system, and you sort of just drew it back, and there you are, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of tunnels and caves that we have on this earth is incredible.
Well, there's that one. The big one was in. I posted on the Unlocking the Code page on Facebook. There's one in Vietnam they discovered only 5 or 6 years ago, and there's literal lakes and rainforests and beaches and it's undiscovered. I think they've gone 10 or 15 k's back, and they're still undiscovered. And it's like we're talking caverns. Like we could have hundreds of thousands of people.
Look at the scientific community, especially the geology departments and that. They've been doing, you could say, ultrasounds and that of the Earth. They've been sending waves through, and they've been looking at, and there are massive cavities.
Massive.
It's like the Earth is a honeycomb.
Yeah. I was gonna say that. Yeah, it's like more like a honeycomb. But if you got like caverns like that deep, and with rainforests and creeks running through them, they could nearly support a group of people.
Well, this all sort of ties in a lot of this stuff. Like one of the terms that's grabbed my attention lately is ultra-terrestrial. Like a lot of these tic-tac UAPs and UFOs are actually going into the oceans. They're going into the cliff faces. What if... And the thing is, if there was an advanced race that did live here once upon a time, and they've lived here for a long time, they would have figured out that the surface is pretty unstable. There's storms, there's earthquakes, rocks come out of the sky every now and again.
That's right.
And maybe we might actually go underground. And there's actually... I'm trying to remember... Jock Doubleday was telling us about one of the Indian tribes in America.
The ant people.
Yeah, but basically that they came out and said to one of these Indian tribes that, hey, there's a disaster coming, come with us, right? We'll look after you. And they took them underground into like these underground cities and stuff, And then when the cataclysm was over, they said, it's well, someone went and checked it out. It's okay. You can go back now. And that is part of their creation story.
Yeah, they talk about how they came. Some of them remember they were brought up from under the ground by the ant people back onto
their land.
On the land.
Yeah. And that's one of their oldest stories. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, look, I think
we're very naive to think that the story that we've been told by our historians is true and correct.
Oh, the hubris is unbelievable.
Isn't it?
And the, what is it? How would you put it? People hanging on to their belief systems and ideas, mate. You know, one of the things we pride ourselves on here at the podcast is we don't tie ourselves to any belief systems. We don't tie ourselves to one idea. We are always open to different perspectives. And that's why I wanted to have you on and have a really open discussion about what you've seen, what you've discovered, because I'm open to all perspectives, man. I think we get tied to belief systems and then that sends us on a different path. Because the reality is we know nothing. It doesn't matter how much we wax lyrical about how many topics we could talk about tonight, we still know nothing at the end of the day.
As I found with some of my siblings, they're too afraid to even look at some of the stuff I try to get them to see because they think they're going to be ostracized or they're going to be sacked from work, and they have fear. It's sort of something like that. A lot of things are controlled by people who really aren't that intelligent. I mean, you can get someone who can pass exams, sure, become a doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can have intellect, but you can't have, full wisdom.
They still live within a box.
And intelligence and understanding are two, and openness, being open-minded and being intelligent are two completely different things.
If you're not open, you're going to miss the bus.
Yeah, and you have to explore all perspectives. We talk about the mirror ball. That was one of our founding ideas here. Is like, imagine you have a disco mirror ball, and your job is to fill all the tiles on the mirror ball with as many perspectives as you can. So when something comes across your path, you can be open enough to take it in, weigh it in your own mind and look at it, and you can dismiss it if you want, because we've all got our own perspectives. So at least be able to take it in and contemplate it for a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've learned, especially, and maybe that's the reason I've gone the path I have, I went from the penthouse to the shithouse. In my job, I even had the hubris myself, thinking that the higher I got up and the more prestige I had, and with my qualifications and the rank, but basically I had to lose it all to start realizing that people that you would not even consider being a lot of the academic community wouldn't even listen to.
Yeah.
The ideas and the intelligence that some of these people have got, it just never gets shown, it never gets seen.
No.
And I've learnt, I actually feel more comfortable out with, you could say, the poorer society of life, where we struggle, but we work together.
Yeah.
We work together as a community. And that's the biggest thing. I think leaving the city was one of the best things I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
Was leaving the city, living the rat race where people were all grumpy, in their own sort of, competing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And as I found with the public service, you could say it's a cutthroat industry.
Of course it is.
Thanks for not dropping my name back there when you're talking about the poorer side of people. I saw you looking at me, Dan here.
Dan, you're richer than me at the
drinking moonshine with the Yowies out in the hills here.
Oh, well, I tell you, that's it.
No,
if I wanted to find out about the stuff, that's the best place to go, wasn't it?
Well, the thing is, though, boys, is that we, I think we've danced around a couple of, and look, understand we'll come back to Yowies, doesn't matter, you know what I mean? We go where we need to go. However, we were talking about earlier, we're in prophetic times, but we're also in there is some darkness insofar as that modern existence, as we understand it, is, I think you get to a point where you figure out that it's bullshit. It is dog eat dog. It is, there's no honor, there's no chivalry, there's no respect. There's, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of us that are aware or that have become aware, are looking at that and going, man, this we messed up along the way somewhere, and we lost that sense. And the word that made me this thought process, Brian, was community, was tribe, right? That is who we are. That's who we are at the core of our being. We're supposed to be part of enclosed tribes. We're supposed to look out for each other. We're supposed to look after each other. We're supposed to help each other. Everybody's skill set complements each other's, and then between us all, we get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how basic I've been living with the Corralba community. Is I've got to know a lot of the sort of, you could say, the main members of the community. I mean, you've got people that live out at Corralban that have nothing to do with anyone else at Corralban. But then you've got the rest of us who are business people. And we don't survive without
each other.
And we realise that.
But we've lost sight of that. You know, it's really heartening for me to hear that you guys are working together out there and helping each other out, because tribe is what we've lost. I think there's a lot of the fear generated society that, you know, was created with 9/11, and then has been recreated with the whatever
the coronavirus.
Yeah, whatever we want to say. This
what a silly
bullshit
farce that is.
That's going on now. It continues that fear-generated society. But I think more and more, especially with this thing that's happened now, is that more and more people are waking up and going, hang on a minute, what the fuck are you talking about? No. This is all bullshit.
Yeah, when people start applying logic.
Yeah. If you just apply basic logic to
right.
everything that's going on now, you can see that it's...
Instead of towing the line, making sure you stay with, you know, whatever the populist movement is or whatever. It's like that, you know, at one stage there we were getting more intelligent. We were learning more. The internet helped us all expand our, you know, basic knowledge on things. But unfortunately, with social media and a lot of it is taking a lot of young kids and they're dumbing them down.
Oh, look, I do, I am concerned. I do have great concern. I mean, because when we were kids, you know, when I was my best mate's brother, who was in high school, used to babysit us, you know, and we were like 7 or 8 or 9, and he'd say, because I had a digital watch, he's like, Triff, can you read that watch? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, my girlfriend's coming over. You go into the bush, and as long as you're back by 5 o'clock, I won't kick your ass. That's basically what he used to tell us, right? So from the age of 9, I was traipsing through the bush of Ballarat, you know, and the thing is about that, you know, with these kids now, you're flat out getting them outside the house. When I was a kid, you couldn't keep me inside the house. I didn't want to be inside the house. I had things to do. I had adventures. I had cubby houses up in the bush.
Yeah, we would get our ass kicked for not coming home in time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. You get your ass kicked because you didn't come home when the lights come on. But we've lost that, and I think there's a survival instinct, and there's many different things that you gain by growing up in the bush, by growing up in exploring those things. You come across moments where it's sink or swim. You know what I mean? Like you crash your bike, you nearly fall off a cliff, or, you know, whatever happens. You come across those moments and you've got to figure it out. And I think that there's generations that are below my generation that just don't have that. They don't have those instincts, and they have grown up with the internet. They have grown up with smartphones, and you know, it's twisting our society, and it is an issue. However, the other thing is too, though, to not be negative Nancy the whole time, the Facebook and, you know, social media and the internet can be used for positive. It can be used as a tool.
I mean, we have used it for positive. We get into our groups. A lot of us get shut down for posting things that are not in the main interest of the main players that want to run everything.
The narrative, yeah.
That's right, the main narrative. But we've turned it on them.
Yeah, that only happened when we stopped being the minority.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And slowly I think slowly people are waking up.
Mm.
And
it's definitely accelerated too over the last couple of years, 12, 18 months, with everything that's going on.
To be honest, I really feel sorry for the people that haven't woken up. I mean, to me, it's just blatantly obvious. And once you start to learn about symbolisms and, the way the media have done things, I mean, I've stopped watching the television completely.
Yeah, we don't have general TV in the house. Haven't had for years and years.
I mean,
and
there's
years.
no need to have a TV when you've got the internet.
Yeah, well, we've got Netflix and stuff for the kids. However, we don't have, what actually turned it for us was we just used to have Today, the morning shows on in the morning, and basically what happened.
They're boring.
Well, one day, I don't know, it was just white noise in the background, and it was when the girls were little that because they were watching it, and it was this one morning. I think I must have been starting late or something, and it had 12 negative news stories, all blood and murders and blah, 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 blah. This is at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning. 12 negative news stories before they had one positive one. And it's like, I actually don't want my kids exposed to that. And if it bleeds, it leads. And I understand that. However, the grossness of modern media and understanding that it's all one media giant really anyway here in Australia, they manipulate the narrative. It's like the bullshit that's been going on the last 12 months. The news shouldn't have to tell you that there's a pandemic.
I mean, there's not a pandemic. It's called a plandemic. I mean, for it's really just a bad virus. I suppose you could say it's the old coronavirus with a bit of HIV added in. But unfortunately, somehow it got released from the Wuhan lab before it was perfected. The Chinese have in documents with the CCP where they were looking at this as a bioweapon.
Yeah, it's the finest piece of biological warfare the world's ever seen.
And then there's also rumoured that they're working on something else to try and release because people are waking up and the fear hasn't got them anymore like it used to.
The control.
No, the control. That's right. Mm. But unfortunately, Australia, we seem to be, I don't know whether it's that we don't protest or they say we're lazy, or I think it's we work, we're tired, we do what we can
modern
to...
society, man, like, me and my wife talk about it a lot. It's like, your day starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the reality is it's not done till 9 o'clock at night, and that's with, with two small children and trying to get jobs done. So, you're working.
So what time do you have to yourself to look into world matters? Most people don't. They don't. They don't want to know about religion, or they don't want to know about politics.
Yeah, they find time for Facebook news feeds, though.
Yeah, look, that is true. That is true. However, at the same time,
that's where people getting their news, though, right?
It's survival stuff. Well, it is, but vast majority get their news from Facebook. Bring that mic a bit closer, mate, so we can hear your sultry voice.
But anyway, just a side note, when we were talking about way before about Yowies.
Yeah, let's bring it back to Yowie. Sorry, we go on tangents here, mate.
Yeah.
There is no...
I thought I'd better try and bring it back to a comment that I was trying to make was, I have never felt anything like I have felt than the time that Dan and I went out actually intentionally going to a spot where we might get some sort of interaction.
Okay, so tell me. Okay, so let's get to the brass tacks of your expedition. So, did you? This is a spot that you knew?
Obviously. No, actually, no. We had planned to actually track on foot. Well, Dan had to. I thought it might be best to stay closer to the vehicle.
In case you need to get the fuck out of that.
Exactly. But we didn't really decide on that. We had a general idea where we were going to go, which was Leamington National Park. And but we always play things by ear.
It was either going to be Springbrook or Leamington, because they're both relatively close.
Yeah, to you boys, they're just down the road, yeah.
See, the first time I actually became aware that there could be Bigfoot and Yowie out there, that these things even existed, was from my dad. My dad worked on an avocado farm.
Yeah.
And this avocado farm, if you were to look at it on the map, you would see all the border ranges. It's right on the actual New South Wales-Queensland border fence. And in amongst the border ranges, there's just like this little clearing on the map.
Yeah.
And everything around it is like national park and privately owned forestry.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd worked there for some time, and no one was ever thinking about like Yowies then. They were just doing what they had to do
They
on
were
a farm.
farming. They're doing their business. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason why they're up there is because it was owned by like a QC barrister who really wanted who lived in Melbourne and really wanted to get away and needed a hobby.
Yeah.
So, this was the perfect location. We didn't even have electricity up there.
Yeah.
So my dad and one of his mates, they're tasked with like brush cutting around this dam, tidying the place up.
Yep.
And they went up there to work one morning and see these massive footprints in this like sandy loam, this like clay beside the dam.
Yep.
And there's a couple of footprints, and they're like miles and miles apart. And these things are massive, and they're like looking at each other like, did you do this? Like, well, I got here when you did. So no, I didn't do it. Like,
No, I
who
didn't.
done this?
Yeah.
And they get the boss and like the other workers like, oh, you guys are playing tricks on us. Who's done this?
Yeah.
Well, nobody admitted to it. And then they tried to figure out, well, could we do it if we wanted to?
Yeah. Could you?
No, who's got the
physically-
biggest feet? Well, no one's got feet that big. What if we like slid our foot along in the mud? It's like, and it still wouldn't look right. There were these massive, massive footprints in there, and like they couldn't figure it out.
Mm.
They couldn't even. They tried leaping from one footprint to the other.
To try and.
Oh yeah,
recreate it.
they were all over it. Like they're like, we're gonna suss this thing out proper,
Yeah.
There was no forensics involved.
Yeah, a bit of
just-
good old Aussie
yeah.
ingenuity.
Yeah.
Now, look, do you know what? That's the raw. That's probably the best type in some ways. I think like
I never.
Can we try and figure this out? Let's look at it logically.
Is it a hoax or is it something else?
But I was a kid. I'm like, oh yeah, cool story. Needs more dragons. Like, I wasn't thinking about Bigfoot then. But like growing up, like years later, as an adult, I might have told you this before, Triff, and I identify as an experiencer now.
Yeah.
Like I've done a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of multidimensional things, astral travel, which is telepathy with certain people, and so many experiences like out of body and seeing different things clairvoyantly, really intuitive. But what happened a couple of weeks ago on the weekend in the Lamington National Park really, really triggered my nervous system like nothing I've ever experienced
Really?
before.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Were you boys out there for 1 or 2 nights?
No, just one night.
Just
Just
one night.
one, yeah.
We were out there for, I suppose you could say, for 2 days, but just one night.
So you went out early one morning, found a spot.
Yeah, no, we went exploring.
Okay.
That's how we sort of decided to do it. We didn't actually have a proper place picked out, except we made sure that Dan's parents knew where we were going.
In a rough direction.
Rough direction where we were heading, so just in case we didn't come back,
They could, yeah.
that's what everyone should do.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to, if you're going to go deep into the bush, you need to tell someone your rough direction to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you think you're going to be going, what path you're going to be on. But no, Dan is right. What we both experienced at the same time. We didn't even. It wasn't even like one person alerting another. We both just went, "What the?" And something came.
Right.
So we stirred it up, of course.
Yeah, right. So what did you? So okay. So let's. So you found a spot. Was it instinctual? You just found the spot, or what?
I think it just happened, man.
It
Like,
was just as far as we could go at the time with the vehicles.
Yep. So you got in as deep as you could go.
As deep as we could go. We waited for everybody else to leave.
Clear out. Yep.
Clear out.
I had a different plan in my head. We didn't do
Oh,
that.
didn't you?
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I had actually bought like this camping hammock.
Yep.
Right. So we got some new gear. Okay.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
set up to like prepare for the worst, but
That's
hope
right.
for
The
the
day
best.
before we went shopping.
We just
and-
got
yeah.
everything we need, like bare minimum.
Yep.
Bare minimum, so that we could just hike,
Mm-hmm.
do whatever we wanted, and float. We took extra things like a tent, but we, didn't need to rely on that. We could just hike and stay wherever we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're talking with some people who were coming back through the bush, because up where we are, it's like, actually, I don't know if you've heard of the Stinson plane crash.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so you can hike from the bottom of O'Reilly's and you can do a big, long trek out there.
Yeah.
Or you can
15
start...
kilometres or something? Yeah.
Oh, it's a long way. It's 12 kilometres there and back. If you start from the very end of Christmas Creek Road, you can hike up to the plane crash site and back. There's not much.
It's not an easy hike, though.
Yeah, there's not much of the wreckage left there now. But we were going to hike, but it was getting late, so we just decided, we'll just explore a little bit. And it was kind of right on dark.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's getting dark quick now, too.
Yeah, and Brian having like diabetes and that, like moving through the bush, like if anything happened to us, right, we were like, nah, let's not do it, because there's creek crossings as well.
Yeah.
Like, so we just agreed. Yeah.
So how deep did you get in from the vehicles? Like where did you end up?
We only went a couple of 100 metres before we realised that with what we've got and the way that, because everything was getting dark very quick.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't plan on being away from the vehicles very, very far, because this is the first time we're coming in.
Yep.
We're coming into something very unknown, and I like to be prepared. I always like to have contingency plans.
Yep.
And to be honest, taking everything that we really needed, the packs were going to be so heavy.
Yeah.
And we would have had to start off really, really early morning just to
That's
track
what I mean.
in.
Yeah, you want to, if you're gonna trek in, you need to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. Trek in as far as you're going to go. Set up camp
earlier.
Yeah, even earlier. Set up camp properly, so you can actually stay there for a couple of days if you need to. But yeah, if you guys only got there in the evening, so it was really it was only a few hundred meters off the track where you guys had this.
Yeah,
experience.
I don't want to give away our position too
No,
much,
it's okay.
but we kind of
asking.
had a fire just off the side of the road.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you don't have to tell me exactly where you were.
It was. You could say that we were on the creek.
Yep.
I mean, you couldn't have picked a more beautiful spot, really. The running water.
Yeah.
The boulders and rocks and that everywhere, but we found a spot. We built a fire, and when nighttime comes and everything changes, it's no longer like it is at light.
Yeah.
We were lucky at the time, because it was almost a full moon.
Yep. It would have been the weekend before last.
It was very bright. It wasn't a full moon, but it was a lot of moonlight.
It was
easy
almost
to
a full
see.
moon. Yeah.
It was easy to see a fair way out,
Yeah.
all the silhouette of everything. No worries. It wasn't pitch black or anything. We had plenty of lighting, but yeah, you want your eyes to sort of adjust.
No, you try
into
and
the
stay away
dark.
from the artificial light. The firelight should be enough in the moonlight.
What you could say is that we were smack in the middle between two mountains.
Okay.
Two very light. We were like in a valley.
In a valley
the
between two
the
mountains.
valley heading up was the creek. Was Christmas Creek.
So the creek was winding between the mountains out there.
That's right.
Which it does for a long way out there.
And you could see up the mountains, and the distance is very deceiving.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it. But also the steepness of it is incredible.
Yeah.
I think it would be very, very hard for anyone to track up that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Up one of the sides. So that's why always the easiest way is you go up through.
Yeah, you follow the creek.
The creek lines is the easiest way to go. But anyway, we chose our location. We settled down, and we we had something to eat, and it was good. And then we thought, okay, this is just going to be a relaxing night. Out camping.
Night by the creek.
So
campfire.
when you say we had something to eat, like we had no bench space and we were using rocks and we had shit out everywhere around us. looked like a mess, mate. So we weren't really that prepared for an encounter. We actually decided,
it was an impromptu camp.
This is just going to be an awesome night.
Yeah, that's right.
We fully gave up on thinking about
feeling
Bigfoot.
You buy the creek, you got a fire going, good company.
remember feeling
bit of
like an
moonlight,
idiot.
Yeah,
and
actually.
it was just magical.
Yeah,
night,
yeah.
you know.
I actually felt like a bit of a doodle burger, really.
Yeah.
Because sorry, that's Alf's word.
A doodle burger.
A doodle burger.
burger.
Yeah. You can
You're a
keep,
bloody doodle burger for
It's
saying that word. Like, what are you even
you
going on
can,
about?
you can
Anyway,
keep it.
no one's going to use that word.
Everyone's saying it now.
No.
Someone has said it 3 times
Anyway,
already.
so you sat down, you calmed
just
down, you
you.
had a bit of a feed. You thought it was going to be just a nice night,
I
good
felt
company
blissful.
by the fire.
I felt blissful, mate. I felt
We
just
were just
so peaceful.
yakking, chatting,
Yeah.
and sometimes we just,
Chill
I
out.
suppose you could space out, look at the stars, and,
Yeah.
or what stars you could see because there was a,
Little canopy there.
Well, no, it was the moon. We
the
we
moon
were at the
drowned
back of the of our ute.
Yeah.
Your dad's ute that we were using at the time, and then we basically used the tail of the ute as a bench.
Yep.
And that, so we used the fire to be nostalgic. We used the fire to cook, our dinner and that in a big pot, and make a stew.
Yeah, nice.
Um,
Bet it was tasty too. It's always tasty.
it's always better when you're out there in nature.
Mate, I was fucking starving. I would have eaten a Yowie.
So anyway, so you had a nice feed, cruisy night.
Anyway, we're getting along, and for some reason, Dan was starting to make these little shanks out of. Looked like he was making his own weapons,
Right.
like punji sticks, whatever.
Right.
I was just
And I was
whittling a
going,
stick.
Dan, what are you doing?
You're making weapons.
I think Dan was thinking maybe I might need this later on.
I don't know. I wasn't thinking, mate. I was just doing
Well,
it.
you
My
just-
body, my subconscious took over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
but
making
like, yeah.
spears.
It was when
I
Dan
smacked it
started
on a
whacking
rock.
it against the rock.
Yeah, I smacked it on a rock.
Yeah, and I said, Dan, nothing's going to hear that.
I wasn't even doing that.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't doing it for that reason. I just smacked it on a rock.
But we thought about, straight away, I thought, okay, yeah, they say they
Do
whack
tree knocks and
tree
shit.
knocks and
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, well, and there's also other reports where there are stone clacks and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, well, if you wanted to make something echo, why not use a log
Yeah.
and hit on a big stone?
Yeah, right.
So I thought, okay. Dan says, you give it a go. I said, okay. I didn't run up especially, but I took
saw
a
a
big
big swing.
step in.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was
You give it a
swing
crack,
with a
yeah.
rather large log that was over 1 metre in length, and it was probably about 5 inches in thickness.
So a decent branch, yeah.
Yeah, a decent branch.
And
And,
then bang!
it
echoed up the
echoed
valley.
because we were in the middle of the
Yeah.
valley, and it just echoed up. And then we were going, wow, that was not bad. And
right.
we thought, okay, we'll have to do this again.
See if we
And
can
so-
recreate the
We had one,
results. Yeah.
one
So
good turn.
I hit it
deserves
again,
another.
and then Dan turned around and said, no, I think you got to do it 3 times.
Intuition.
Don't know why he said that, but anyway, so there wasn't just 3 whacks, one straight after another. It was a little bit of a break in between.
Yep.
But the break would have been, I suppose you could say, much the same. There's probably maybe a minute, maybe in between, or 2 minutes in between.
A couple of minutes, yeah.
Yeah, between each whack. But I made sure, I thought, okay, if I want someone to hear this, I may as well whack this, fairly hard. So I did. I mean, I whacked it that hard that it actually hurt my own hand.
Yeah, the vibration.
Vibration was. And then we went, okay, there you go, we've done that. And we went on to something else. We started yakking about other
we were
things.
just sitting down side by side at the fire
Yeah.
for only like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Then what did we hear?
howling.
Really?
I don't even call it howling. I thought yowling.
Yowling?
Yeah, well,
Yowling.
at first we thought it might be wild dogs because we've
of
got
course, yeah.
a really bad wild dog problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Ones that mix with dingoes and that, but they
And
travel in
you
groups.
got to be
It's-
aware of that, and that's the other thing about the Australian. You got to be aware of the wild dogs because they will surround you and
and that to me at the time was scary
Yep,
to think about.
yep.
And I thought, okay, we better keep ourselves alert.
Well, the thing about wild dogs is what or the dingoes, they will surround you. So you get one howl in
Yeah.
front of you,
We were
then you get a howl to the side of you, and then it's when you get the howl behind you that it's probably time
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah, so we were actually,
Pick up a fire
you could
stick
say
and
that
a
we were
fire.
actually listening for that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
yeah.
There was one sort of howl, and then there was another set, wasn't there?
So Yeah. So the first howl, it sounded like there was like 8
Was it
different. It was a
it
pack. It
was it
sounded like
a
pack.
was it a dog howl? You know what I mean? Was it a wolf,
No,
dog,
Not quite,
dingo?
but
Like
we
it was
just
another
assumed.
another type of noise.
You couldn't at the time when it happened so quickly. First thing you think of when you hear a howl is you think of dingoes.
Yeah,
you think of
dingoes,
wild
yeah,
dogs.
Yeah.
Because we had gone off Bigfoot idea altogether by this time. We just thought dogs.
Yeah.
Like, even though we were out there, original idea,
Mm-hmm.
intent was like, hey, maybe we'll find a Yowie out here. Let's go look anyway.
Yeah.
To what the hell were we thinking? Because that's just stupid. You're going to find one on your first time out?
Yeah.
No way.
how silly,
So that's
yeah.
that's dogs right there. But, like...
But so,
was
Brian, was
weird.
this your first intentional attempt at looking for a Yowie, or you'd been out searching
First
before?
intentional.
But you used to go on bushwalks.
I used to go on bushwalks and that. Yeah, sure, I only thought of it when something may have happened.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I just liked being in nature. I
You like
I loved
exploring.
being in the bush.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the way
It's
I
re-
see society is running, I would sometimes love to just take off
Yeah.
and live in the bush.
We've all thought about that. Yeah.
Haven't we?
But in the bush is almost. I see the Aussie bush. If you get in there and you become one with the nature, it's as close to a proper, religious, and I'm doing the inverted commas, religious experience I've ever had. Like the
Yeah,
nature.
to me, I feel like I'm one back with the earth. That's where I'm meant to be. That's
Yeah.
where we're meant to be.
Yeah. But anyway, a
yeah.
howl. So like
It felt okay.
an unearthly howl. Was it?
It sounded like
Well,
it was
it's
about
distant.
5
Distant.
Ks away or something.
Yeah.
And
And we
like,
couldn't exactly pinpoint, although it did sound like it was on one mountain side.
It was coming from one side of the
One side of
mountains.
the mountain at the time.
Yep.
Which was across the creek from us where we were.
Yeah.
Because just across the creek, the bank went really steep up
Yeah.
up to a little bit of a ledge, and it was all covered with foliage.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember what the exact foliage it was, but it was
There was-
lantana.
there
But-
was some lantana. There was some actual trees with
Yeah, just
lots of
scrub.
foliage.
Yeah, but then
bit
there
of
was a
scrub.
little
I
ledge.
call
You
it
could say there was a
canopy.
little ledge, and then it went up again, and it was extremely steep. I
Yeah.
mean, but it's deceiving when you're down the bottom
Yeah, of course.
looking
yeah,
up.
Of course. So
But-
two hows. Was it a group of hows? You said 8 or 9. Or was
There
it?
was,
sounded
there was
like it
quite
was
a
a-
few.
We
Yeah.
didn't know. I didn't know how many. It just sounded okay. There's a couple,
Yeah.
and we both went, oh, and we both looked at each other and said, oh,
That's a bit weird. Like what's going on?
we thought we both straight thought, bloody freaking dogs.
Dogs,
Glad,
yeah.
glad
'Cause-
to be by the.
Because
Glad
where
to
we
buy the
live,
car, yeah.
where we both live, he lives past Rathdownie way. I live at Corralbin, and we both have
There's a wild dog problem.
we have a wild dog problem
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it circulates, and they rip into livestock and
Yeah,
everything.
they come out this way as well. They head out Prenslow way. There's roaming packs of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah. So but
Well, it
so
was
what-
only 5. We just ignored it. 5 minutes later, like, we're just wary that, okay, something's there. But it sounded so distant, so far away. I'm estimating like 5 Ks away. Because
Yeah.
the next one, it happened again. And it sounded so much closer, like maybe 1 K away only.
yeah, they
And-
had moved.
but-
They moved quickly.
That was only, it had gone from what I am only guessing 5 Ks away to 1 K away in like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that
right.
was
We were
quick.
sitting down just by the fire, kept telling stories, and then we weren't expecting to hear it again.
no.
We heard it again. It was so much closer. Like oh my
Was it
god!
guttural? Like what was it, like a guttural?
No, it
type
was
of
like
howl?
it was
More of a
just,
deep howl. Well, it had mixture of both, but the second howl didn't exactly sound like dogs.
no. When it was closer, I'm like, it sounded like a group of people, but like that yowling. But there was no one around us. There's no one for miles.
Yeah.
There was a couple of like cabins up that way, but they were empty.
Mm-hmm.
There's-
Yeah, sure, we did notice that all the way in. Weren't we?
Yeah,
Didn't
there's
we?
no
All the
one-
way in.
there was no
no
one
one in the
staying out
cabins.
there.
There was no one. They're all like where people basically they do up a place and they rent it out where you can go and stay in the night.
like a
where
B&B
you're nice.
or something like that.
It's like a B&B, but you look after yourself.
Yeah, like Airbnb.
Yeah.
You hire the room out or
We
whatever.
had sort of worked out that we were the only people in the area, even where there were two houses that were very close to us. We remembered them leaving, didn't we?
So there was no lights.
And they didn't return until a lot later. I think the next morning.
So second how, a lot
Second
closer.
Well, it was
Almost.
2 minutes. Yeah, we were in a bit of a like, what the hell? That's, moved
Well,
pretty
imagine
close.
you're starting to freak out just a little bit.
2 minutes
right?
later,
we're
after
thinking
that.
we better be quick to be able to hop in the vehicle if something comes around.
You're gonna. Well, again, being Australians and understanding the wild dogs and what they can potentially do, you need to be aware. And
But we had a big enough area around us that was, it was on the edge of a roadside, like a
There's a lot of
parking
open,
area.
There's a lot of open ground. So with the moonlight, we could see a fair way through the open, but in the canopy, you can see nothing in the tree line.
So what
It's
time are
very
we
difficult.
talking here, boys?
Pretty early. It was fairly early. It was like 8:30 or something.
Yeah, it
when
wasn't that.
So we weren't in witching hour or anything else like that.
No,
It's really early.
no,
No, but
no,
everything continued for the rest of the night.
It was all night. We had interactions all night.
So when you say interactions, so we've got the
Okay.
second howl. What happened next?
Okay, so 2 minutes later, we're still sitting down by the fire, and then we both felt the whole energy change. in
And
the
we
area. It's
before
very-
that we heard some knocking. There were some knocks.
I don't remember that bit, but I remember how it
So
felt.
I just remember hearing some knocks.
So this is after the second howl. You
This
heard
is after
something.
the second howl. It was like it was a knock. I'm not sure it was around the same time with the second howl. I heard some knocks as well. I mean, maybe that's because I was listening at the time, and maybe Dan was more concentrating on the howls. I
I
don't
was
know, but
more focused on how I was feeling.
Yeah, right.
I was just
Do you think the knocks were like a communication? Were they trying to?
I believe so.
Right.
I reckon the knocks. I reckon that perhaps theorizing that the knocks, the interval with the knocks, and what you're knocking on, either you're knocking on wood or you're knocking on stone, or you're knocking stone against stone. I think it could give a different message. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
I think the knocking is how they call each other, but it's just less obvious than shouting out, "Hey, I'm over here."
And look, different mediums using
You know.
different mediums would have different results. Yeah.
But it's still a way of communicating over a long distance.
So we heard some knocks, and then
Then the
it
feeling.
came.
the energy shifted.
The
yeah?
whole energy shifted, yeah. I'm going
Shifted.
from feeling like blissed out, peaceful, inner zen, to like hair on the back of your neck standing up.
Yeah, right.
So I stood up straight away. I stood up. I felt like I was being watched. Like I felt like something was behind me. And I stood up and I walked away from the ute just a couple of meters and was just standing out looking out into the distance. And 40, 50 meters down looking into the creek, I saw them standing up, 4 of them. 2 really, really tall ones and 2 shorter ones that were probably still taller than me.
So you're saying, would you say 250 meters away, roughly?
No, only 40 or 50 meters
40
away.
or 50 meters away.
Yeah, in the open, through the creek. I've seen them go from standing up to crouching down. By that time, Brian has stood up and come over, and we've both just been looking at their eyes.
Prior to that, they came. What it felt like was something had come down the mountain, and whatever it was, they had come, and it was across the creek at the time.
So across from you.
It was across the creek
Because
from
they
the
would
time,
have,
on a ledge.
if they were on, if they
But they
would
would
have
have
a
been
perfect
hidden.
vantage point.
They would have been hidden by a lot of bush.
Yeah.
It was like something suddenly. There were sort of 4 things moving, bipedal. But oh my God, they would have been. The first one was at least 4 times my weight, at least, and it was hitting the ground hard. That's
right.
how it came down from the mountain,
And you could hear it. You could hear it walking or running through the bush.
running and coming down to a stop, and you could see the bushes across from the creek. You could see them swaying. You could see them moving like something had come
Really?
down and just suddenly stopped. And that's when Dan Like a minute after that, that's when Dan
Stood up.
stood up. He looked over, and whether it was another lot or the same lot, I don't know.
I think it was a different group, to be honest.
The speed would have had to have been another group. That's when Dan alerted me to there were 4 figures. When I got up to have a look, all I saw was some eyes shine and they moved.
Yeah, right.
So because I seen them move, go from standing to crouching in the creek, and Brian has seen their eyes, but because I've watched them move, I watched where their silhouette sort of landed.
Yeah.
But Brian was staring straight at them. Says he couldn't really make out them that much in the dark, but we could both see their
Well,
eyes.
everyone has different levels of night vision too. You
There
know,
are-
like, so it depends on your visual spectrum.
There is one thing is you could see the eyes.
Yeah, right. And, like,
The eyes are like fluorescent green, like a council worker should.
when you have 2 that are really high and you
glowing
have 2
green.
that are lower, I don't know, for some reason, anything that crouches down seems to freak me out.
well, that's the
it's
attack
like
stance,
stalker
isn't it? That's the
position.
attack
Yeah, I
stance.
mean,
Yeah.
because you don't know how big it is or whether it's ready to. Anyway, so
So no
and they're in the
bullshit balls,
creek.
like-
We're like freaking out. We got some swim
No,
fams down here.
when they came down, that was when we both sort of froze, and it felt like primordial fear.
Really, like,
Well,
we
you
talk
had
about-
better you watch out. You are in the presence of something great that can tear you to pieces.
yeah, right. That's that genealogical DNA stuff. The big,
Yeah, so I don't know. I've never felt like that in my life before.
It can't
but that
not
was the first time.
affect your nervous system.
yeah, right.
Yeah, the
Like-
hair basically raises up in the back of your neck,
And it's like
and you're
there's
saying,
something.
"Holy shit, that is something."
You
all
have to
those
be
ancient,
there.
all those ancient animal instincts are kicking in.
Yeah, it's like, imagine how you would feel if you're just walking through the bush in Africa and all of a sudden you get around this bush and there's a massive freaking lion standing in front of you.
Yeah.
What kind of feelings would you
what reaction
feel?
are you
Like,
going
you
to
know,
have?
it really gives a jolt to the whole nervous system. Like, you know, your nervous system reacts before you see anything or hear anything. It's like the energy changes.
I do have to agree with that.
Almost
Yeah.
feels supernatural in a
Yeah.
weird way.
Wow. I can see. Look, just for everyone at home, I've got 2 honest men in front of me. They're telling me a story, and I'm looking in their eyes while they're telling the story, and everything they're saying, they believe to be true, and I believe you boys. So you saw 2 or 4. You think too big, too small, maybe?
Yeah, too big, maybe too small, but we didn't know whether maybe one was bigger ones or 2 were crouched down. We didn't know, but it was
I think
4
it was a
that
family.
we could identify
Right.
at first.
At first.
But then we didn't really know whether we were being surrounded. I think we heard other noises then behind us,
Yep.
which would have been at the front of the vehicle because we were at the back of the vehicle camped.
Yep.
So during all this, like, you know, chaos, like big emotions,
Yeah, I was going to say.
nervous systems going, what the fuck?
I'm having a visceral reation just listening
Yes.
to you guys, honestly.
I know, I can see that. We're
Can I
putting
tell
you
them how
in it.
you felt?
No, I'll do that. I'll do that. So, yeah. No, basically, I'm thinking, I'm excited and nervous
Yeah.
at the same time. And I'm like, you know, the question always pops up, am I going to die?
Yeah. Well, it's survival. You're in full survival
Yeah.
mode.
But I'm
I suppose
looking
I've
at...
been through
Did
that
you have
before.
did you have one of your wooden spears you just made, or
No,
Nah,
I think
mate,
it's
we
a-
threw
yeah,
it
I
in the
think-
fire. Don't need that no more.
I think we were in a situation with something that would, if it wanted to, could step across the creek or step across, they would have us in seconds, and there would be not a thing you could bloody do about it. You couldn't run. Running would be silly.
well, the thing is, if you run,
It would be
the
playing,
things are
I think,
going to
into a game.
Yeah, if you
It-
ran, they'll probably chase you. That's the
Whether
whole
it's
thing about.
wild dogs or any cats or anything like that, if you play into the fear
Yeah,
of what they're trying to get you to do,
because there is apparently big cats out that way as well. That's the other story that echoes
Well,
around through all the Aussie bush.
Actually, the next day, we seen a very interesting track.
that tracks, yeah. They were
Before we
weird.
get to the next day, I'm
Let's go back to where we were with this.
So, yeah, I
So you
was-
saw these. So just so where we are is from my point of view is that you boys have both stood up. You've both seen the eyes. We're talking glowing night vision type eyes.
Dan
or?
Yeah.
said, I can see there's 4 of them right there, and I had to get up to come round the other side, and all I could see at the time were the eyes.
Right. And then they
Um,
took off, yeah?
Their eyes glow like.
that almost sort of put you in. I don't know. It's like, watching a scary movie
I was gonna
where
say,
there's
like
something
M. Night
like
Shyamalan type
charred,
stuff, yeah.
candleless humanoid underground dwellers with the eyes glow.
They
Yeah.
don't.
And
They don't
you
glow.
have
From,
bad.
Yeah.
they're not like when you shine a light on a cat or a dog and their eyes
Yeah.
reflect.
Well, that
we
was
back
weren't
gonna-
at you.
shining lights at
They-
the
they
time.
weren't
that was going to be
shining
my
lights.
question. Was
That was
there,
self-illuminating. Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
It was like a greeny yellow to me.
Yeah. So then what did they do? Were you guys sort of staring
well,
at each other a
they
bit weirdly?
froze. They went into freeze position, mate. They weren't
Well, probably
moving.
that. Well,
It was sort of like
because
we're
they're
looking
probably
at.
like,
It's
can-
like they're thinking.
maybe we can't
they're
see them.
thinking they can't see us,
if we don't,
and we're
move.
looking. We're going. Can those things please go?
Yeah.
Well, I think it might have been a bit of a holy shit. They see us, we see them, and everybody's a bit sort of freaking out. You know
I
what I
wanted
mean?
to stay because like this is what we come for, but I also wanted to feel safe. And I'm
And run
like,
away.
Brian, can we just pack the ute up? And he's looked at me like, you want to leave? I'm like, no, I don't want to go. I want to pack up.
Dan
And
wanted to
he's
pack
like-
up just in case we had to flee.
Just in
and
case
such
we
a
need
quick-
to like flee. I'm like, I bought all this new fucking shit, and I don't want to leave any of it behind. I don't want to drive with the tailgate down. So I'm like, let's just pack the shit up and put it in the car. He's like, stop freaking out. I'm not freaking out.
It sounds like you were freaking out.
No,
I'm fine.
Yeah, no. I just felt that
Just put the
If we
shit in
had-
the car.
I had the intuition feeling that if we got into the front of the car, that then they would play peekaboo with us,
Yeah.
and then I would shit.
Yeah, right.
I think if anything, that would be the most freaky thing is for them to suddenly come and surround the car.
Yeah.
And there felt like there was enough of them to surround the car.
Right. So you think there was more than 4? You think there
Oh
was
shit!
some?
Yeah. Oh hell yeah!
There felt like
Definitely.
there was a few, but at one stage it felt like they had retreated back up the mountain, and there was chattering going on.
So
Chattering.
Chattering.
Explain.
hang on, this is gonna get confusing otherwise. These 4 that we seen down in the creek.
Yeah, so the 4 in the creek, what happened to them?
We just decided. Brian was like have a chill pill, Dan. I'm like, yeah, no worries. 3 deep
Have a
breaths. We're all good here, man. Okay, let's go sit back down
Have a
by
chill
the
pill
fire.
about the...
But can we still pack the car? No, Dan.
No.
I said
got
we have to
shit
go
out
back.
everywhere.
We
New
have to.
pots.
We acknowledge that they were there.
Yeah.
We made acknowledgement by looking around.
was
Okay,
in-
we know you're there.
Well, I suppose the thing is too, boys, and I sort of get where you're coming from, Brian, where it's like if you show not fear or massive reaction to that sighting, that's not going to continue, right? You've acknowledged each other. No one's hurt anyone yet. No one, and you guys.
I didn't want to turn it into one of the games.
Yeah.
I've done enough research to know apparently they love to play games, especially the Yowies in Australia. They love to play games, especially if you run.
Yeah, right. They're going to just mess with you.
They're going to mess with you. They like to also play how stupid is a human. How close can we get before the human notices?
Yeah, right.
But I said, okay, Dan, we've sort of identified we know you're there.
Mm.
Let's go back and pretend that we're just doing our own thing.
Yeah,
I
right.
said, we were cooking another meal at that time, having
go-
noodles.
So he talked me into unpeeling my eyes from them down
Yeah.
at the creek to sitting back down by the fire.
Pretending that we didn't care.
We didn't exactly wash up that night, but we
Yeah.
did just sit
No,
down and
that's right.
chill out.
So
And
continued cooking your noodles.
and then I swear, like these 4 must have moved into the tree line because we had interactions with them early, like later as well. But these ones, these 4, they were actually sort of across the road from us in front of the ute, and we were sitting at the back of the ute
Yeah.
with the fire and the creek on the other side of the fire again.
Okay.
But up the bank, there's like 4 or 5 meter drop. This bank down into the creek.
Mm.
Well, up the very top, that before it drops off, the yowling that we'd heard earlier, we knew it was the same creatures up there.
Yeah.
But it was no longer yowling. It sounded like chattering.
Like monkey chatter type stuff.
More
Yeah, it
like,
was. It was chat. It was chat. I don't
made
know.
no
how to
sense.
Right.
Yeah,
don't know.
they talk
were
about
communicating.
so they talk about the samurai talk.
I wouldn't call it a language,
Yeah.
but they were clearly vocal and they understood each other.
So there was a conversation going on about the two weird humans that were on the creek bone.
Well,
Yeah.
it almost I don't know what it was, but it wasn't any language that we would know.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
it
why I
wasn't,
call it chattering.
it was more chattering. It wasn't like ooh 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 gaga, that.
But there was multiple.
It was multiple, but it was quick.
Also heard laughing.
Yeah, it seemed
Yeah,
that
they were laughing.
it
They're
seemed like
telling
they were having
jokes
a good
about us, I'm
time.
sure.
Yeah.
I'll
we're
take the
freaking
big.
we're freaking
I'll
those.
eat the big one. You eat the little one. I'll throw a rock at the little guy.
So the first experience happened about 8:30. So you boys pretend to go back to cooking your noodles.
Doing those things, and
What,
anyway,
did we
things
say
start.
noodles?
No, noodle. I was
Is that what you
cooking
would
up-
do?
No, well, I was cooking them up just
Yes,
before
true.
they'd come anyway. So, but then I think things started to settle down, didn't they?
Yeah, I settled down.
Yeah.
They-
you stopped
they-
freaking out.
They went backwards and forwards between like looking through the trees. We would shine a torch up at them. We'd see their eyes.
Oh,
We'd see quite a few sets of eyes looking up the
So
creek
this
bank.
is up at the bank. The,
Yep.
the ledge on the other side of
Yeah.
the creek.
Yep. We'd shine like lights up there, and then the eyes would disappear. Right? It's like I don't know if they just closed
I
their
think
eyes or they
just
turned
closed their
around
eyes
or
they just
something.
turned. That's what it looked like.
They obviously were aware that like we could see them.
But-
We knew where they were.
So
This is when I decided, okay, I've got to get the camera out.
Mm.
It's funny that people say, why didn't you take a photograph? At the time, it's the last thing you think of.
Yeah, when you're in
And-
primordial survival
It
mode.
is the last thing you think of.
And your flash isn't that great for like longer distance anyway.
No, for night photography, it's not that.
No, we didn't. We weren't
night
set up for
photography. If we're doing
night
a
vision.
long distance, we used to do what's called painting the road.
Yeah.
We would do a long exposure, and we would go along with a flash and go flashing all the way down the road.
Yeah,
This is
right.
with massive traffic
So
accidents.
traffic accidents at
It's
nights and
called
stuff.
painting. Painting the road.
So you take
Yes.
a flash and go every 20
Yeah.
meters.
So
or
someone
whatever.
goes along, but you've got the apertures open long enough, so you don't really pick up the person walking along.
You
But
just pick
what
the
you're getting
flash up.
is the flash, and you're picking up the road.
Hmm.
But with this one, I started taking some photographs, but this is something I have never ever experienced before in my life with taking a flash, especially at night.
Mm-hmm.
Not every shot when I was doing this it happened, but there were certain shots where I took and there was spam sparkles in front of me.
Right.
It looked like it was fairly close.
Mm-hmm.
And they would like of different brightness, but
Yeah.
it was like the flash was reacting with something.
Reacting with something on the other side of the.
Where I
How
don't
wide-
know how
how
far. I
wide-
don't know how
how-
far away it was. It to me it seemed like it was closer, like it was only a couple of meters away.
Yeah, right. How wide was the river?
Probably about 5 meters at the most. That creek.
Directly behind us was a fair bit narrower, but the place where I described where I was actually looking
Where the
down
ledge
the creek
and that
at
sort of
them,
stuff is, yeah.
that is just like heaps and heaps of like flat stones. Water's running through the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's all only ankle deep.
But how wide is it? About 5 meters?
About 5 meters.
About 5 meters. Yeah, right.
That's the water.
I'm
And
just
then
trying to
you've
think
got, like,
about, like, because obviously you're using the Nikon you've got there. Is that
yeah.
the camera you were using the night?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the camera. But these flashes and that, and I said to Dan, Dan, you've got to see this. But it was only after we had taken that, and Dan said, "Geez, that's weird." You know,
Is it- and you
never
could see
seen
that.
before.
You could see that through the camera, or
No, you could see that through the naked eye. We were looking.
Oh, when the flash went
yeah,
off.
when the flash went off, it was like something else. These little things that were out there
yeah.
just went bang. They reacted back as if they were reflecting the flash.
Yeah. Right.
So I thought to myself, okay, I've got to start thinking of what's a logical explanation. Is it insects? Is it?
Did the camera pick it up? No.
You always did. It picked up orbs, is what it picked up.
Yeah, right.
But we're seeing like little sparkles and pops of like energy spontaneously.
It was like it was reacting to the
or
flash.
something.
Wow.
It was
So
very
night vision
strange.
goggles next time, boys.
That's the really thing. Like strange thing. Like this was
So
very.
it wasn't just the beings that we're talking about here. I think we need to probably. I do want to get back to them, but I think I wanted to talk about the energy. Do you think it's some sort of like, because obviously you're getting reactions to light. You're having human animal instinct reactions.
I don't know what it is. Whether it's something energetic, and it felt like something. There was energy in the air.
Yeah, right.
And it was reacting to the flash. It was that sort of freaked me out as well.
Mm.
I was puzzled, so I wanted to take more. So what I was doing though is I was walking around because we knew that we had been surrounded.
Yeah.
At one stage. So
Yeah.
I was walking around. I was just going bang, 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 taking as many as I could.
Well, I suppose your thing about your previous profession is that there would be a level of training that would come back. Okay, I need to take photos, a 360-degree
That's right.
understanding of my environment at this present moment.
My environment, but I was also thinking of is, okay, if they wanted to look at what advantage points would they have, but the only thing that really annoyed me, that it annoyed us both when we were using the spotlight to try and have a look to see where they were, every time we tried to look in one direction, the smoke from the campfire would suddenly cover it.
Yeah, right.
And you couldn't see anything but the smoke. So then we move over to the other side of the car, around the other side of the fireplace.
And try and get another
advantage point. And then suddenly the smoke changes course again.
I think
So
fires just do that anyway, though.
They do.
It's just
they
like
do that.
Murphy's Law, you know?
They fire. It's like, there's smoke in my eyes. I'll move around the other side of the fire, and then 2 seconds
it
later,
follows you.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does
So did
that,
you
but-
guys get any pictures when you were shining the spotlight? Did you take some photos, and did you get any of the...
Yeah, but they just come out like black.
Yeah.
Just dark.
Some came out as if
And
we didn't
some have
even take a photograph of anything. All it was black. The whole image was black.
Right.
And then you got some with just orbs.
And the other ones we got
Heaps of orbs.
of
in the
orbs,
photo.
and there was probably like 30 or 40 orbs or something, all different sizes.
Mm.
You know, like they were different distances away or whatever, but they were orbs, and that's the first time I have ever captured orbs in photography.
Yeah, right. So, and you obviously with the DSLR there, you don't mind taking a photo, and you've never caught orbs before apart from that night.
Nope.
It was
I'm talking, years of doing forensic work where we're taking, images and that of, because you don't want images that are disgusting. You would need perfect images when you're doing forensic work.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're being presented to a court. But
Yeah.
I'd never had that ever before.
Yeah, but you're no stranger to a camera. That's just the...
No.
Yeah.
I mean, doing photography wasn't just like a subject we studied. It was a tool.
Yeah.
So like many things, like a computer or whatever, it's just a tool of your trade.
And you get proficient at it. So you know what the settings are and all those sorts of
Yeah,
things.
we used to develop our own films. We used to develop our own negatives in black and white, mind you. But I learnt that when I went up north, Queensland, and from the scenes of crime officers, I was taken aside and they taught me in the darkroom how to do it all myself, and it was great. But it taught me a lot about photography.
Yeah.
And I even had a research student where I put her onto a project where we were looking at identifying someone who's using the same camera to take photographs.
Yeah, right.
And this is looking at the very outside edge of the photograph. This is the old cameras. We took it on film. This had to do with things like pedophilia cases.
Right.
Where we're trying to identify, whose camera had been
taking
taken.
The camera had been used. Or...
Well, whose camera?
Right.
Because the aperture around it had these minute, microscopic little sort of, very small little indentations. The only way to see it is to take the negative and to blow it up with a magnifying glass, basically. Yeah, well, we had very powerful ones.
Yeah.
And So, because I had a research student who had come, a high school student, wanted to learn about forensics, I put it onto this thing, and we did it at all different apertures and speeds and that to see if we could pick up similarities, so that we could, like, in the future, if we had a case,
You could match the
We could match-
indentations or
we
whatever
could
it
match
is.
the
Yeah.
patterns around the outside edges
Yeah, right.
that are so minute. And
So despite all that experience, you couldn't capture anything that night. That's, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what I was
No,
getting at, and that's a
it's-
perfect
it-
example of the level of competency you have, and you're trying to take these. And have you looked at all the photos since? Obviously, you have. Have you? Or have you actually?
Oh yeah.
I haven't had a look at them like I want to have a look at them. Like
You haven't applied your
No, I want to take them. I want to change.
contrast,
lighting, contrast,
white
and-
balance, all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
I want to do the full range to see if I can see anything different.
Yep.
Where I'm looking at it and I've had it up on the TV for a bigger screen and be like, oh yeah, that's fucked. That's fucked.
Yeah, but see, the thing is,
It's
he's
some
looking, at
orbs.
it he's looking at it through a different lens.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
I'm
can't
not the man
figure
for that.
out. It was almost, some of the photographs turned out as if I still had the bloody cover lens on.
But see, that's also a common story about that, isn't it, mate? But you've moved the mic, bud. Bring the mic back down.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's your first time, mate. It's all good. Daniel's got no excuses. But you're right, mate.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the interesting things about when you try and take photos of multiple types of phenomena, not just your Yowie type stuff, but there's all these other types of phenomena where people will say, listen, I was there, I saw it, I tried to take a photo, and nothing happened. You know,
Well,
yeah,
especially the
that's
ones that turned out
convenient.
just
Yeah.
pure black.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was just pure, some of them were pure black. And, I know the flash went off.
Yeah, you were there. You took the photo.
I
there
was
should
there,
be-
I was taking
there
the
should be
photograph.
something like a bit of ground at least.
Yeah, like a ground in
rock.
front of the flash or,
Yeah.
or something, but it's not.
Yeah,
It's just black.
Yeah. It's very strange.
So do you think there's an energetic
I think there
aspect
was
to these things?
Look,
I don't know how to comment on that, because there is a
I only did
supernatural
research
feel, but-
afterwards. After this, I did a little more research into this area where apparently people had tried to do films, or they had tried to take photographs and that around when the Yowies were, Sasquatch or whatever was around.
Yeah.
And apparently what has been reported is a lot of orbs.
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
I had read it sometime previously, but I had sort of discarded it as, they're just taking photographs of mosquitoes or
Whatever it
moths
is,
or whatever.
yeah.
Because all you're seeing is a round thing. It's not in the focal point, so it's not going to be accurate. But
No.
But when the flash went off, every one of these little flashes that came back at me were crisp. They were so crisp, as in like their reaction.
Yeah, right.
Um,
So these where are we as far as the timeline? They retreated back up the hill. We heard some chattering, some laughing. Is that when
Yeah.
you guys started to take some photos?
It went
and-
on for an hour. Like when after an hour, we just settled down.
I think
and
it
we were
was
like,
more
oh,
than an
this-
hour. I think
this
we
is
lost
it.
time then.
No, but
As in, like, we
it was-
lost track of time, as in, like,
Yeah,
we were so heightened still, obviously.
Yeah, what was actually going on?
It
You're not
was
sure where time
after-
was in that instance. Yeah.
It was just after an hour of interactions, playing Spotlight with them on both sides. Taking it in turns each side of the
And what
tree
did you see
lines.
behind the spotlights? Nothing.
Mostly
Lights.
just
Eyes.
eyes. Yeah, and it's like, oh, did that branch move? And
It
you're
was
like,
either eyes or was smoke in the way.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's annoyed
But-
absolute.
But we
crap out of me.
really felt pretty confident in our situation. Like after being there for an hour, we're like, if anything bad was going to happen to us, it
was
felt
gonna
like it
happen.
would have already
It would
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just kind of stood our ground and minded our own business, looked busy doing whatever we do.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, like, they would go backwards and forwards between you'd hear them chattering, and when they'd stop chattering, they'd go really, really silent for a while, and that's when you felt like you were being watched.
So
Like they were just watching you.
I'm thinking from what you boys are describing in locale and land topographical. Obviously, I think they're looking down on you from that ledge. I would say that's
Yes, that's
Yeah,
that's right. They could see us
everything
pretty well.
above, across the creek, either side, it just went on a steep angle.
yeah.
These
So
guys
they would have been
can-
looking at you from above.
And they can obviously, the way that they move across the land and that, like at the dark, these things are nocturnal.
Yeah.
I think they're sensitive to light. They're probably chilling out, either having a rest or that's why they're in the forest. It's filtered light. But at night, they're pretty the group across the creek, they were really boisterous.
Yeah.
They were like joking and
Sounded
laughing.
like it felt like a family of them to me, like the two adults,
two kids.
two kids.
That's-
sort of thing.
That's what I got for that was my instinct when you said the four. It seemed like two adults, two kids.
Yeah,
like a
yeah. I
family.
think there was a family. They were pretty
Otherwise, we
quiet.
wouldn't have had the number.
They were
Yeah.
quiet and kind of left us alone. But the other side was more boisterous. They
Yeah,
threw like few rocks down towards the creek, like not at us but towards us.
Really no shit.
No,
it
no
was
shit.
it was just trying just to get our attention. Maybe we
It's
weren't
because we
looking
were.
their way.
I think we were boring for them, to be honest. Like they're like, oh, it's like if we were kids and we wanted to poke something, on the
And it
side of the
didn't do
road with a
anything, and
stick.
it
It's
didn't
like,
do
come on,
anything.
move.
Yeah.
Move, you stupid animal.
So there was
It's-
some rocks
it's
that
like-
came down from the
Yeah.
ledge above.
Oh yeah, and they couldn't have rolled. Like they were thrown.
Yeah, well, especially the size of them. They hit the water. Even though the water's rushing, you could still hear a big splash. But the thing that sort of
pretty good
I do know
distance, too.
it lasted. I do remember we went through the night, and I do remember a time we were still at the fire. We felt the safest place was right next to the fire.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Because it was cold.
Yeah.
We got warmth from the fire. I'd already taken out my inflatable mattress, and Dan we had our stuff out there. Because of what was going on around us, we didn't have time to set up to actually sleep properly.
No,
But
it
we had-
happened pretty early on
Yeah.
by the sounds of things.
But-
Yeah, but it went all.
night,
till
sort of thing. We were on sort of edge. Like little things happened, but then I know that we must have both started to doze off. Because I
Well,
was
at some
getting,
point, your
I was
adrenaline's-
getting really tired.
Your adrenaline's going to give out at some point.
That's right. When you have a high adrenaline, then you're going to have a low.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that I remember I must have fallen asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing I hear is crunch, crunch, crunch on the rocks. And wasn't that far away from us.
That's the car park.
like
No. This is in the creek.
like the
Right.
creek bed, the dry part of the creek bed.
Dry part of the creek bed. The
Heaps of round.
It was
the
definitely
round
something.
creek
It
stones.
was definitely
The
something
river
bipedal walking along,
Yeah.
and it was as if almost to get our attention as well.
Right.
So what happens? Our torchlight goes on first.
Bang! Off
then
we go. We
stand
both
up,
wake up and we're looking around. We're doing the spotting again.
Saw nothing.
No, where we heard the crunches and that. We got up. By the time we get up, I suppose we're slow, but then we couldn't see anything.
Yeah, right.
It was like they were playing. I think at that time we had started getting sick of it, but we also had decided came with the intention if we did have any interaction, we were going to have an offering.
We brought offerings.
Right.
We
okay.
bought a bag of apples.
Okay.
What's really funny is Brian first suggested a chicken, like barbecue chicken, and I'm like thinking, well, if I'm hiking,
Go to
if
Red
I'm
Rooster and-
hiking and I'm trying to shove as many things, cram all these things into a tight little space in
And
my
what's gonna happen to the
backpack,
barbecue
one
chicken?
of them things is not going to be a barbecue chicken in my fucking backpack. No, thank you. So it ended up being apples.
Right.
So we decided to go with something that was natural and was sweet.
It was a whole kg bag of apples. Like
Yeah.
it was enough to share.
So where did you put the apples?
Now that was funny.
Yeah.
We both stood up. Okay, well, we thought, after this sort of been going on for a while, we thought we better put out like an offering, like a peace offering.
Yeah.
We were going to walk off down the creek, right? Where
To
we
do
seen
that.
them.
Yeah,
like,
where-
leave them somewhere down there on a rock or
Closer,
something.
but then we looked around and we went, no. And then we both looked at this rock that was in front of the car.
I'll say the tree line.
It was near the tree line, yeah, but on the car. It was near the front. It wasn't actually out in front of the car.
Yeah.
But we both looked at this rock and the same went, that's it.
It was the same time.
It was the
We
same
both
thing,
just
We
like,
both said it at the same time.
I actually
Oh.
seen it in my head before I was looking at the rock. I seen apples. Like, I got a download, right? I just got a vision
Of
of
the apples on the
apples
rock.
sitting on a rock, and we both at that exact same time both looked at the rock and said, "Over there."
Well,
Like, it was
I
our own
got
idea.
the impression of put them there.
Yeah. And
That's
what I'm also getting from you two boys as well is that it was very much a shared experience. You guys, there's some instinctual stuff that happened that you both had at the same time.
Yeah,
So it was not an
we
individual
probably experienced things slightly different,
But the same
message,
message at the same time.
roughly the same message.
Well, you've got different interpretations. However, it's the same thing at the same time is what I'm getting at.
But when we said it, when we say it at the same, we
Correct.
both said it at the same time. It's like we look at each other, and go, "That's how we're putting them."
Yeah.
But at this stage, what I had done besides from putting them there, opening the bag, but I had to fold. We didn't want like animals just getting to it straight away.
Yeah.
So I folded the plastic underneath it. But what I did first is I took an apple out.
And put it on top or whatever.
No, I took an apple out and we ate it together. But we
Okay.
left the rest of the apples there.
in the bag on the thing.
We had expected either the bag was going to be there, left there, and they didn't touch it or whatever, or we expected them to be all gone.
Right.
What happened at the tree line? Well, we're standing there yabbering for 5 minutes.
That's right. Yes.
You'd forgotten, dude.
Oh no, I couldn't forget that part of it. I wasn't talking about. I was talking about the end result.
Yeah.
But when we were there, we
Don't
were
stop
talking about it. We put the apples on this tree, on this rock. We didn't put it on top of the rock. Over the other side of the rock, there was like a little ledge.
Yep.
It was like a little serving tray on
Right.
it. And we were there both talking, well, I suppose we really shouldn't. I remember
about
saying,
5
I
minutes. We
don't
were
think
just
we really
yabbering.
should really be here when, because they're not going to come take anything if we're right here.
Yeah.
And we
then
talked about that, had a conversation about that
yeah,
there for
and
like
then-
4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, we shouldn't
Right
be
up above
standing
us,
here.
which is straight up sort of a little cliff.
We're like 2 meters away from the actual tree line itself,
Yeah.
where it's just thick
Yeah.
bush.
But there was a, I think it was a fern tree.
No, it wasn't a fern. It was
a
like
fern or something like
it was
that.
like it was fairly thick, like at least as thick
Well,
as
it
your
was-
arm, but it wasn't like.
Well, no, the branch, the trunk of the tree was quite thick.
Yeah, right.
It would have been at least 5 to 6 inches thick.
Okay.
But all around, you could see everything was fairly still, and then just one tree was doing this, whip, backwards and forwards.
Wow.
It was
shaking
like-
vigorously.
Piss
So what are we
off.
doing?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
we're checking the wind. Why are we so skeptical? Like, still at this point, we're still skeptical.
Well,
we're
that's
looking up there checking the wind,
See if the
Yeah,
other
we
trees
started
are
looking
going.
See if-
around to
yeah.
see if anything is the same.
and there's
Only one
slight
tree's
breeze,
doing it.
slight breeze, and yeah, here's this tree going backwards and forwards. Like a pirate flag in the wind,
Right.
just being whipped
Yeah.
backwards and forwards.
whatever you.
And it was
the
nothing,
strength,
like,
I
we
would
couldn't
not be
do
able
that.
to do that. I could not have been able to do that.
Right.
It
You
didn't
know.
couldn't
So
be
that
bothered
was-
to walk in past the tree line to test that theory either.
No.
We were like,
So
all
that's-
right,
yeah,
let's
we
fuck
could.
off.
That was at the sink.
It's,
So,
it's time
Back
to
to
go
the car.
back to the car.
Let's just take a few steps back now.
It's time
Think-
to return.
I think they knew what was in front of us.
yeah, right.
I don't know
They knew it
whether
was something for
I
them.
don't know
Yeah.
whether we were trying. I don't know whether the message to them was, "This is for you," or it was, "We're sharing."
Yeah, right. Because you stood there and ate the apple.
We took the apple out and made sure that they could probably see us. The only purpose we did that for was to show that it's not poison or anything like that. See, we're eating it too.
Yeah.
But maybe the message that we got across was we're sharing.
Yes, of course.
In the morning, I went, because I had counted the apples.
Yeah.
And after we had woken up and everything in the morning, went across to have a look. I mean, the bags. Hang on, we didn't put the bag on top of the rock. It was on the other side of the rock on a little ledge. This time the bag's open. It's sitting on top of the rock. But this time there was only 2 apples missing. Just 2.
Just 2.
Just 2 apples missing. And
still no people.
Yeah, still, and no one was there.
No one had arrived yet. We were up because we thought we would better get rid of the fireplace. And make it look like no one else was there. But that was weird.
Right. So I can't believe you boys slept. I wouldn't have been able to sleep.
We slept probably about 2 hours, if at the most, if that.
So we've crawled. We still had the fire blazing, and we jumped in the back of the ute with the canopy.
Right.
Okay.
So you stayed in the ute.
We both slept in the back of the ute
with
with the back down. Yeah.
But just left it wide open, so you can see the fire. I actually left the lantern on all night.
Yeah, I think that was that was probably a smart thing.
It's just a battery lantern.
But we had a light on.
Light there. But you just got so tired at the end, and nothing had happened to us. So it's like nothing's going to happen to us. Was sort of
there's nothing much we can do
but
anyway.
I would doze off and then wake myself up after 10 minutes. Like, I wasn't sleeping very well. And I would just listen. I wasn't looking up. I couldn't be bothered with the torch anymore. We'd had so many, interactions with them. Playing Spotlight, seeing eyes dance around. And then just before we even, decided to try and get some sleep or just, at least get in a resting position.
Yeah.
Was we looked... Down. Do you remember? We looked up the hill. Okay, after having some silence for a while, we looked up the hill and all we could see was eyes on top of eyes, or a slight, very dim glow.
Yeah, right.
And there were so many of them, and it's what the fuck? Why?
So many,
how are there
8.
so many here?
Yeah.
What the hell? And I realized, oh my god, we freaking called them in.
Yeah,
they probably came down expecting to have some family corroboree.
I was just gonna say,
and here are these freaking people, right? Using their own language.
By a billabong, and you guys bang the big rock by the billabong.
Yeah,
you probably inadvertently.
We probably told them we had food.
I'm not a weak person. I suppose you could say I'm fairly, stronger than the average person. But 6'2", 125 kilos. I can hit that bloody thing pretty hard.
Pretty hard, yeah.
And I meant to.
And you intentionally hit it as hard as you could.
And it I remember it just
echoed
through the whole valley. So whatever's on that mountain,
they would have heard it.
And whatever's on the other mountain would have heard it, and whoever was further up creek would have heard it.
I heard them tree knocking
So you heard knocking later on. You didn't hear the initial knocking?
I heard them tree knocking later on. Yeah. It was probably 100 meters away from the creek line, uphill. That was uphill where the boisterous group was. Ones that were throwing the rocks and chattering and laughing and carrying on. They were having a party up there. They didn't care that we were there. They were just doing their own thing. Part of me thinks that they thought they were being quiet. Yeah. If you got all the boys
Sneaking
together
around.
and you think you're being quiet in the house, but you're really not.
Yeah.
It was two families had come together.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
And the kids were messing around.
And the kids were. It was lighthearted, maybe a lighthearted moment for them or something. I think the main thing that we tried to also manifest that we're no threat.
Yeah. You were just there to observe, sort of.
But I think they scared the crap out of us first off as
the initial reaction is
sort of an
I think it's
initiation
their
is
reaction too.
we want to see what we do.
Yeah,
I
see what you
think
do, and look, if you guys stood your ground, there's a whole heap of animal type stuff you guys participated in unknowingly or instinctually that night. Any other crazy experiences from the night that we've missed, or we've covered pretty much? I mean, look, that's a hell of a first experience. I mean, How do you? What are you going to do next time? Like,
I know. I don't know if we can top that.
I'm just hoping
because it
for
was
a fizzo next.
it was all. It was literally like all night, right up until at least 3 o'clock.
It was exhausting.
And I would doze off, and then wake up and just listen, and I would hear them chattering still.
yeah.
They were still there.
Well, if they're entirely nocturnal, which by the sounds of it,
Hmm.
they potentially are, then that's their daytime. They're up and about.
That's
at that
right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And if they've got night vision, then they can
And
see.
I think they've got caves or something, or whether they go underground or whatever.
Oh, there's so much stuff hidden in those mountains. No one would know. You wouldn't know.
just-
You could search for the rest of your life and probably not find the cave.
I could bet you probably that no one's been up the side of the mountain that we're looking up.
Yeah.
Um,
No one's actually physically climbed every foot of that.
well,
valley.
you would need climbing gear, I think, unless you knew which way you were going.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. There was a couple of interesting things the next day.
Well,
Yeah.
like the rock stacking, or
Well, no.
but
I
we
think
thought that
people
might have
did
been
that.
done by people.
People
Yeah.
did that.
So I mean,
People
there's all
stacked stones.
people stack stones everywhere.
But
That's
if you wanted to stack the stones, you had to get into the water to do it,
okay.
because that's where the stones were stacked.
And were they stacked previous? Did you guys?
We saw, I think, 3 different piles.
So, sorry. The next day we went for a walk into the Lost World Valley.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we had
So
to,
you
we had
basically
to
went
pack
for a
up
walk in
camp.
the
We had to
daytime.
drive around.
So
and,
did you intentionally go into the bush where you had seen these things to go and have a bit of an explore, or?
we just wanted to hike a bit. Just
No, because at the time in the morning there were new groups that were all arriving.
Yeah, so people were
People were going to be, going, and we didn't want to attract too much attention
to the.
to what we were there doing.
Yep, fair enough.
There were
we saw a couple of really interesting footprints when we were hiking through the Lost World Valley.
Yeah.
One of them was like, wasn't hugely long, but it was like really, really fat.
It was wide.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the toe looked a little bit strange too.
Yeah,
Like the toe's configuration looked a bit different. It looked semi-human.
Yeah.
It was like, and we're just looking at this, and we're
Did
like,
you get a photo with it?
we tried, but
We did
It's
take
it's
some
really it's
photographs.
not a deep. It's not a really
unless you
deep,
have like the best time to take photographing of any sort of footprint is in the dark, and to
Oh,
have
so you can get the shadow and the impressions.
you have oblique lighting,
Yeah.
which is where you put lighting across it.
And you can see
Whether
the
it's
shadow.
whether it's in something in dust or in something, you get to see the shadow, you get to see the full. 'Cause most people, when they're taking photographs, are thinking that everyone can see what they see, but all they're going to see is
Yeah. It's
a
very.
collage. So
Yeah, look, I'm an amateur photographer. I've hung off a DSLR for many years, and sometimes you get lucky and you get. It's never even like some of the most beautiful sunsets that I took over in Western Australia. That's what I did for a while. I chased sunsets, and some of them of my photos are fucking amazing, and I've sold a few over the years. However, even those ones in a raw, like I always used to take raw photos. So no, like one photos was 20 meg sort of thing, and even those don't do justice to that sunset that I saw that day and the 360-degree vista and the detail and all that sort of stuff. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, right. So some footprints, excellent.
There was another
there was
print
another
that
one
we
that was
seen.
more interesting.
Yeah, it was very strange. It wasn't human looking really at all. It had deep, very large, deep
Pads
claws
and
going
claws at the
into
front
the
of it.
mud.
Really?
The front had claws going into it, and I
Did you
hadn't
get pictures of that one?
just
Yeah, I did.
just
We did
looking
take
at them,
photographs.
like had no idea what makes a
But it
footprint with
also
claws
had-
that big.
It was like a dog print.
It was.
It was like a dog print at the front of it, but the back of it was like, the back part of it, the dog, after the paw print, it was pressed into the ground as well.
Yeah, right.
There was a longer section that was into the ground.
Could it have been a dog or?
It could have been a dog, but I don't think a
the
dog
dog
could.
claws are very different. It was different.
It was
the-
large. If it was a
a
dog
lot
claw, it
larger.
was very
It
large,
was a big dog.
big dog.
Would have to be a monstrous
I
dog.
thought, okay, could it be a kangaroo or something? But no, the kangaroo claws aren't exactly like and the pads aren't exactly like a dog's.
No.
I went home and looked at it at prints later, And the closest thing that I found was like a jaguar print,
Okay.
like a massive cat. But
And look, there is
it
the
had to be
talk of big
freaking.
cats, yeah.
But it had to be absolutely huge.
All right. So okay.
Much bigger than a Doberman or anything like. Or much bigger than
Bigger.
a Rottweiler or something like that.
Yeah,
It was
well,
big.
let's have a look. We might get the camera out after we finish and have a look at some of these photos. That'll be interesting.
Yep.
Well, boys, number one, thank you very much for sharing that. And look, again, I'm here in the room with these two boys. They're saying what they saw, and that's it's as simple as that. What an amazing, interesting, insane experience to even have, especially on your first intentional time out. What are the takeaways? I mean, how do you guys want to finish this conversation? What are the takeaways? What do you think now? I mean, obviously, Brian, you've been in that rabbit hole for a little while, researching, etc. Daniel, you've had some, your dad told you about an experience. However, you're not deep in that rabbit hole. What are your takeaways now? Where are you at with it now? We'll start with you, Daniel, I think, and then we'll end with Brian, because I think, this conversation. The thing is, my adrenaline has been up through this conversation. Like just you boys.
Yeah, it's like
telling the
reliving
story.
it sometimes. Yeah.
So what's your takeaways, Daniel, now after doing that and seeing that? And as I say, you are an experiencer, so you have done your fair share. Where did it weigh to your other experiences, and what are your feelings now?
A lot of other experiences that I've had, like astral traveling. Like, this is when you're like up, peering down at your body and realizing, shit, I'm more than just my body.
Yeah.
So for me, that's been proven. It's proven to me, like where I sit. Okay, I understand that there's a lot of things about us that not everyone has figured out yet. Okay, you're not just a body. You have what's the difference between a dead body and a live body? Consciousness, awareness,
the energy. Yeah.
But like, we can focus that in a lot of different places. But the Bigfoot experience just feels so real.
Right.
It's so physical and 3D and more grounded than other experiences. They're like, you could write off other experiences I've had as a very, 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 very realistic dream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that you could probably write off your brain manifesting.
Yeah, you can't write this off as a dream. Like,
you were there, you saw what you saw.
There's apples missing, there's trees swinging around in the bush, and just what this represents for me, like, part of the reason why I really wanted to go out there anyway, Bigfoot or no Bigfoot, because I feel like our world has become so emasculated, and I really wanted to just center myself with my inner man.
Yeah, do something primal, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to feel that, and I got that chance. Something that's out there, that is wild, can't be caged, lives free, hunts for its food.
Yeah.
And
you saw
it's
it,
kind of what I was
experienced
looking for in myself, really. Where is that part of us that doesn't live under all the constraints of society and all the control mechanisms? Do this, don't do that, walk there, don't walk there. We are so conditioned, and it's just being out in the bush, you get away from all that. But apparently, we're not alone.
Yeah. And
There's more to the world and the universe than we realise.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a 3-dimensional, like you've had, as you say, you've had a 4-dimensional confirmation of that. This experience for you now is a 3-dimensional confirmation that we don't understand. We're not alone. There was something out there that night that was communicating and playing with you.
Well, there was no denying it. Just
what
too
it
many
was,
interactions.
you can't say 100% what it was that you saw.
Yeah.
And you have to be there, Triff. Like, you have to feel that. Like, what happens to you energetically, it changes you.
I'm fairly empathic with that sort of stuff. And I went on that ride with you guys. However, it would be nothing compared to what it would have been like there that night. Yeah.
I think we were lucky that we didn't get a negative version that some people have had.
So what's your takeaway, Brian? I mean, obviously you've researched this for a while. You've
I think
seen
that
a
a lot
few
of
things.
it, we did go in with a certain attitude, but also we came with a lot of respect.
Yes, and that's the key to these things. Yeah.
But what the whole thing made me realise is that we're losing our ability to survive in the bush.
Yes.
I mean, if we had a natural cataclysmic event,
Oh, we're done.
how many people could survive?
Well, that comes back to what we were talking about earlier, isn't it? Where our generations have some skills left, some bush survival skills left. Like I have some
Only
left.
some of us who want to go down that path.
Yeah.
The rest are just, fluff, pillow, marshmallowed, lattes, soaking type people.
Yeah.
They would not be able to survive a couple of days in the bush.
Do you know what's interesting? And I've told this story before, but you'll appreciate this. Is like I was a cub and a scout. I grew up in the bush, spent many years in the jungle, PNG, etc. So I've always had to remember those skill sets just in case shit happens, you know. So I had this little Bear Grylls survival kit that's quite handy, you know. Well, it's actually quite. It's got
they're good.
Yeah. The flint's not worth a pinch of shit. However,
mine's quite good.
The fishing line. You know, there's just a few things that if push came to shove, I could use those things. And so I was teaching, and I used to do environmental, and I'd be like, and I had all these young people in front of me, and I did it quite a few times. This one instance was hilarious because I got the little pack out, and I showed them what was in it, and I said, okay, what if I gave you this? And I had a pocket knife and some matches and bits and pieces, yeah? I said, what if I gave you this and dropped you in the bush? How long would you survive? And this young fella puts his hand up and goes, how long would it take to die? Because that's how long I'm going to survive. You know what I mean? Like he had there was no concept. Like he's like, I'm done. That's it. I'm done.
No, to me, I would survive as long as I could survive because I will not give up when I'm put into a situation like that.
Yeah, but you've grown up and you have a certain skill sets.
I mean, I did army cadets and all that sort of stuff.
You have the skill sets to survive. But isn't it interesting how both of you now, again, one of your initial reactions to the experience is, it was crazy. What do we see? I don't know. But was that primal reaction? Was that acknowledgement of something primal existing?
Acknowledgement that we've gone too far away from that knowledge. We've lost a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, right. That's fascinating.
And to me, I don't know why, but for some reason, there must be a reason why I've been learning all the things I've been learning, why I'm doing the job I'm doing now as basically as a handyman / engineer.
Yeah.
But I want to learn as many skills as I can, not just in to survive in today's world, but I want to learn as many skills as I can so that I can walk bush.
Yeah,
so I can survive.
You can survive,
and I think that a cataclysmic event can come at any time. And they have tried so hard to push this out of the academic world of catastrophism. So in other words, especially with geology.
Yeah. Well, we got into that. Look, Brian, I think I've really enjoyed your time, mate. And I know you are a fellow learner of megalithic stuff, Graham Hancock and those sorts of things.
He's a fellow coder.
He is a fellow coder. You are, mate. You are a fellow
initiated.
coder. You are initiated. You are a fellow coder. Welcome to the fold, man. So I think maybe next time we get into some of that stuff, we might get into some of the understandings and, we'll talk about that, and I'll give you some of the back catalogue to have a listen to, because I'd be interested to get your feedback on some of the ideas that we've said and talked about here. Well, boys, final word. I mean, I feel that this conversation, this podcast has come to an end, but I feel like there's a final word, and for me, the final word is just appreciation. Do you boys have anything else you want to say before we sign off for tonight?
Just one word that really sticks out right now is something that Brian's just mentioned, is about respect, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, just want to back up what he was saying. If you go out there, okay, and you discover something, maybe you're ready for it, maybe you're not. But respect actually can get you a long way in a lot of different situations.
Absolutely. Well, any of these field trips that we go on to look for this megalithic stuff, we do leave offerings. We do honour the earth. We do make sure we, make sure we're welcome. And we should always do anything and approach any situation with respect. I think that'll take you a long way. That's awesome, Dan. Brian, mate, how was your first podcast? Did you enjoy that?
Oh, it was good.
Awesome, man.
I mean, just meeting you tonight and that, and we started talking about a lot of the same topics that we've been looking at. I thought, wow, and we both sort of indicated that a lot of us have all, about 6 years ago, we all started getting into this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just so strange.
There was a massive accelerated awareness or awakening or whatever word you want to put on it, about 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah, around 2013, 2014, in that window, I run into so many people where it's like you can have a conversation with them about anything. They go, yeah, about 6 years ago I started to really open my mind.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people like that, mate.
And that's basically when I sort of got ostracised by a lot of my siblings because they still work for the government and they're
towing the line, mate.
Yeah, the teachers and police officers and that still. But I remember what it was like when I was working there, and I thought my eyes were being opened when I joined the police service.
Yep.
But now I find that my eyes are really starting to be opened.
Yeah, because you're seeing the wider world around.
I've seen the wide. I've been, as I said, I've been to the penthouse. Now I've been down. I don't classify myself down in the shit house. I'm not earning as much money as I used to earn, but I'm so much happier.
Mate, money's not everything. I worked in FIFO. I had big paying jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To me, yeah. I'm learning about things. I love learning about things, especially things that is not common knowledge.
Absolutely.
And especially, I don't know why, whether it's paranormal or stuff that's been forbidden. You could say forbidden archaeology was one of my greatest loves.
Yeah.
Because I want to see things, and evidence is what I want to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, there's a growing amount of evidence here in Australia, and I know. Now, having met you, and Daniel, appreciate you making the connection, and we'll be doing some more work in the future, mate. Listen, boys, thanks very much for coming out. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you very much.
And
thanks, mate.
And that's it, boys. Thanks very much. We'll chat again soon.